I was dying, Sonny. I was trying to fill the gap. But anyway, so you can prove now that we haven't had a prep before this because we're in minus 5 minutes. But anyway, welcome to the show, Sonny. I was nearly going to call one of Russell or Dan to come and join, but yeah, it's anyone that doesn't know you. Do you want to give yourself an introduction, Sonny?
Sure. I'm Sonny Rivera. I'm good friends with Chris. We talk about data modeling a good bit. I'm the chief product officer for a fintech company called TIFIN AG. My background has been in data and analytics for a lot of years, helping companies like Ally Financial or AAA get to the cloud and kind of build out their technology stacks, postmodern data stacks, right? So that's kind of what I've got going on. But I'm happy to be here. And TIFIN AG, where I work, is, we're a data company, but we're also an AI company. We're kind of a products company. And so just wanted to talk and, maybe share a little bit of what I've learned about being a product manager at a data and an AI company, which we're all AI companies now, right?
Oh yeah, exactly. Well, even though I've got a fall and foul of that, we've got another little sideline with an AI domain name, just because that's the coolest thing to do now. But yeah, I think it's great that you've seen that whole. I know your background. We've spoken many times, but from your beginning of when you're working on algorithms that help with guidance systems, you can share more if you want. But to go to where we are now of using all that data for business purposes, and I think yours is helping the financial markets, isn't it? Is that your TIFIN? Yeah.
So TIFIN is, I'll just do a brief. I don't want to talk about TIFIN too much, but TIFIN's a holding company, and they focused on wealth, kind of the wealth industry. And so they broke up into a lot of different subsidiaries to focus on various audiences, whether it's wealth managers or individual investors or wealth advisors. The company I work for, TIFIN AG, helps companies, wealth advisors, grow their books, attract new clients, retain those clients, expand those clients. So that's kind of what we're doing. And we're using our data, and we're using some interesting algorithms to help those advisors out.
Brilliant. So a real true product, that's out there, but uses data and AI. So you must be in your element there, working on the combination of all the things that I know you love. So we're here to unpack. Data products are cool. Now AI products are cool. Modern data stack was cool. What and now with a product focus and product led approach that we're going now, is how much AI makes something an AI product, or is it just a sprinkle needed? Is it a whole slice? Does it need to be underpinned by it, or how would you define what really makes it an AI product?
That really is a good question, because everyone asks that, and it might take a bit to explain this, but here's my take on it. I'll give you a quick story. We'll start with
Go for it.
We're sitting with a client the other day, and they're looking at this, and they go, "This doesn't look like AI. It seems really simple." And I said, "Thank you," right? Because the hardest thing to do is to take something that's complex and make it simple, right? And we use these analogies to explain our product, but we put them in terms of things that you would do every day that may not be AI. And so in trying to help explain this to a broader audience, sometimes you kind of undercut what you're doing. I mean, I can go out there and show you this screen of a million different lines all wiggled together and how this works. That doesn't help you understand and help you get to business value, right? Oh, yeah. So when you start to look, hey, what's the value that you're driving from them? Then, it becomes a little easier to say, okay, let me step away from is it a large language model? Is it a lookalike model? Is it XGBoost? Is it some other just simple regression that you're doing? So you can step away from that and say, how am I adding value? right? So that's one thing. I do believe it is different for different companies. Everyone wants to put AI. Well, one, AI is more than just a chatbot in your product, right? When I was talking to a friend, Ben Stansel, he wrote a nice article. Like, it's easy to do a chatbot. It's hard to do a good one, right? And so AI is more than just a chatbot, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a neural network, right? That's going forward. I think the constituent components to me are, we're using data, right, to go from what happened to what could happen and what should we do, right? So if you can take that approach and then loop back to, I'm continually learning, right? And so do I have a neural net that is continually learning in real time? Okay, that's one thing. Or do I have a set of auto ML models that are retraining themselves and relearning or building, right? Again, another mechanism for meeting all of those same criteria.
Yeah. So I've just been making some notes here. There's a few things I captured on there. As I think the first one is that just because we make it look easy doesn't mean it's easy. It is something, and I always joke about this. Is why you set your own company to do something because you thought it was easy, not because it was easy. You'll find out it wasn't. So yeah, looks can be deceiving. So it's a really interesting spin. So you play it back a solution, and you think, oh, it looks really easy. I suppose unless they've seen or felt the pain of what you're solving, they wouldn't realise the effort that goes in there. And I think that's the two words, like automate and simplify. I took one out of that piece, and that's really where we should be using AI to support existing products. Okay, so they're already there. So what can you do now to simplify and automate them with that as a feature or a capability that you put on your platform? But does that make it an AI product now?
Yeah, I do think here's where I am. If you can do those things that I'm saying, modify, using data, answering those questions of what happened, what could happen, and being prescriptive about what you can do, right? Or what you should do, and you're continually learning. Right.
So it's the continuing learning is the bit, because people all did the other bits, but it's that continuous learning that was never part of it. It was, continuous learning was based on your retros after your sprints, and like you go, okay, what could we have done better? So that was a continuous learning, but it was a human continuous learning rather than from the lessons learned from our deployments, rather than what we've deployed as continuously learning in the environment it's been deployed into. So that's it's really interesting.
So I think one of the things I've learned is, think back to big data. We started with big data, and I think maybe you even talked about this earlier on Joe's show. But you think back to big data, we had this whole Hadoop environments, right? And as things evolved, we got to you could do some of this stuff with small data, right? And it's come full circle. I think you can do the same things with AI. While you can have these really large language models, or you could have this complex neural net that uses a massive amount of data, what about small data? And what about small models? So it doesn't necessarily mean, because you have more data or you have bigger models, that you're AI or that they're more complex. That whole cycle and the continual learning. Maybe I have some of my standard statistical models that we've run for years and years and years, right? We're retraining those. We're continually learning. We're getting better. We're having better data inputs, continual learning. We're able to drive business value, make people's lives easier, make people more efficient, open new markets, all of those things. And I've just integrated components together. Is that an artificial intelligence? And I might say that maybe AI doesn't stand for artificial intelligence. Maybe it stands for alternative intelligence. Maybe it's just a different way of thinking about things, and it doesn't have to be artificial.
Yeah, well, I think what springs to mind, alternative intelligence, is probably intelligence that we wouldn't agree with. Well, that's an alternative view. Yeah, okay. Well, I appreciate you giving that, but yeah, that's a bit out there. But I hear what you're saying is that, and that's the other comment on there is, has the term AI just been like abused by marketing now? So is now and yeah, unfortunately, I do marketing as well. Yeah, we're all guilty of it, but I mean, we have to live with the consequences of it. So you either go with the flow and you have to do it, but you have to play the game to some degree. But and now AI is so I can go to a conversation as soon as I say what industry I work in. Oh, AI is going to take over the world, isn't it? Well, and then I find myself having to justify why their perception or what they think this AI is going to be able to do now is not quite how, maybe, but it's a long way off. It's not how the media and marketing have now given this to the wider audience that haven't been in this industry, and not knowing what's underneath it. Some of them are worried, some of them just quite can't understand it, but to your point, AI is a superset of a natural language programming, machine learning, and neural networks, and we're not in that order, but it's a bucket category of it. Yeah. And I think that leads on to the other thing that I was mentioning was, I wrote here, business decisions being made, human in the loop or human out the loop. So now we've got AI in there doing this. Where is the line? Well, first one is, if humans are in the loop, is it still fully AI or is it AI assisted? If humans aren't in the loop, will that dictate it is fully AI? And then which use cases should we use for each of those ones at the moment? That's a big question, I know.
Yeah, there's a lot there to unpack. First of all, I'm gonna add another term to that too, and that'll be human on the loop, and we'll talk about that for just a moment. But human in the loop, right? What does that mean? That means the decision's not made until a human does it, right? And you show me a dashboard, and now I can do something. You send me a notification. You give me a confidence interval that this is going to happen. You need to take action. Or you make a recommendation. Now I have to push a button, do something to make that thing occur, right? Yes, that is valuable. My question to you is, who's the robot and who's the one running the show in that case, right? Chris, click over here. Think about your social media, watch another stream, swipe left, swipe right.
I'd probably be clicking things that probably I shouldn't have approved, but yeah.
So I think that idea, one, human in the loop is important. It's important from a trust perspective that we can get there. But I also think you need to think about going beyond human in the loop. And, people worry about, well, if the human's not in the loop, if there's Chris Tabb's not there to, turn the wrench 3 times, what does Chris Tabb do? I'm not worried about that.
I'll find someone else. Don't worry.
Yeah. Well, I think, you do need to, as a professional in your space, figure out where AI is going to disrupt your space. And then you need to figure out, what does AI do well in my space and what does it do poorly? And that's the place to win. Yeah. I was just reading a great story about, and I'm sorry, I forget the gentleman's name, but he was with Toyota in the 60s, and they brought in automation to do his work. And instead of feeling like I'm going to be left out, he's like, I'm a master mechanic, a master machinist. I'm going to go and figure out, what does AI or what does this robotics do well? What doesn't it? And then I'm going to focus on that and know where we can use it better. Right. And so instead of being a Luddite and trying to break it, he actually said, this is where I can add value to the whole process.
Yeah, we become the machine that makes the machine rather than components of the machine. And it's a really good point, and it's something that I used to talk about friction a lot, of like friction automation of what you do and the frequency you do it, and the associated risk of doing it will drive where you should automate, and a friction score driven sort of approach of focus. And now if you add AI into the lens as well, is okay, all right, what's one of our daily activities that we can go and do that work well with using AI, and different which AI algorithms and products to use for different things. But then later on, it's okay. Well, the thing that it can't do is it doesn't know what questions to ask. Okay, it doesn't know the right order to ask those questions, and it doesn't know how all these things should be linked together. And that's, I think, the role, that the hidden art of architecture. And the forgotten thing of just engineering. If you don't have a vision of what you want to try and build, AI is not going to build something for you. You need to know where it's going, and then I think that's the role that we need to be focusing on. Engineering is it can be automated to some degree, and sometimes engineers like engineering, and they don't always have to.
So let me just imagine here a case, because we're still talking about human in the loop and that sort of thing. But if I'm doing a product and an AI that's going to help Chris Tabb do his job, right? Like, you're really good at what you do, but just trying to compete with all of these CPUs, all of this memory, all these things that I can throw at all these algorithms, you're probably going to lose when it comes down to calculating something. And
I'm very fast at maths, but very rarely right.
But what I can do is give Chris the information he needs so that he can do a better job at what's really important, which is maybe building relationships with his clients and his customers or with prospects. So I can help Chris do that better. All these other things, he's not going to be better than me at, but I can arm him with everything he needs. And then I can actually, say, Chris, here are things you need to think about and talk about. But Chris knows how to put his own personal touch onto the relationship and build from there. And I think that's really valuable. That's an area where, you can look at, how does AI help me? Well, it helps me engage the rest of the community, the rest of the world better. Instead of lets me separate from it. Right. It actually helps me engage.
I suppose it's like being the bionic man now, isn't it? So you've got like other features you can, or tools or skills you can call upon. A shout out to people. I think Joe's just joined. So I turned up to Joe's show and I gate crashed it a little earlier. So shout out to Joe, Val, Russell, Ramona, Auntie, Carl. So a few people there.
Okay, wait a minute. Before you go on, I want to share with you. I'm late because it's Joe's fault. Because
you were on his show, did you?
On his show, and then I'm like, no, but it's not really his fault. I'm like, I'm doing Chris's show at 1, and he goes, "Don't you think it's 12?" He's like, "It's at 12, Sonny." I'm like,
the clock. It was all the clock thing. Anyway,
here we go. Thank you, Joe.
It was Joe's fault. It's actually Joe's fault for a lot anyway, so he can be blamed.
Fair play.
So the other thing I captured there, and this is like a common theme. I think I had Jesse Anderson on the other week, and we were talking about product engineering, data engineering, or software engineering. And I haven't. AI engineering is a thing now. I've seen courses for it, so they've jumped on the engineering. So Joe, maybe you need to do that book as well. A AI engineer, maybe you're already on the case, but it's that engineer mentality is now crossing each one of these disciplines. And we talked about products, and then we keep pigeonholing products into, it's a product, or it's a data product, or it's an AI product. They're products, they provide a service. Okay. Well, we've got the data team doing this. We've got the AI team doing this. We've got the software engineering team doing this. You're all engineering teams. I've got my ML ops. I've got my data ops. I've got my DevOps. They're all operations. And now, with this world becoming closer and closer, and if we want to say we're building AI products, and AI on its own, apart from if you ChatGPT Bard or something, it's not a product. You still got some GUI that you have to go through anyway. It's a small piece, but you've got there is just pretty much that is, AI is, it is that as a product. But you try and put that into any other tool out there, it's got an application behind it. It's going to have some business processes. It's going to have lots of pieces of the puzzle. And if we're now going to have AI part of the decision making, and we'll come back to the minute your human in the loop or human on the loop, human in the loop, no human in the loop. But if that's a human in the loop, it's a business process. So it's that person should be in the business, if they're part of that. So are we going to see it just being a product engineering team mentality with all the right skills needed to deliver a product that has a bit of everything, and depending on how much of the product is database or AI focused, you've got the appropriate people in there. Is that the future?
Well, I'm gonna step back for just a second. I talked about human on the loop as well as human in the loop. The difference being, right, human makes that decision to do something. In the human on the loop, they're basically making the decision to stop something.
Right. Okay.
It is going to happen, right? All I'm going to do is, pull the button, press the button, do whatever to stop the action from happening, right? And so it's a really different mentality. You could think of, hey, I've got a swarm of drones that are set to attack Chris's house. I'm just going to let it happen until I don't. Right? Yeah. They're going to do what they do, but I'm not directing I'm not making each individual.
Be close to that button. Just be close to that button. Just don't leave it to the last minute.
So I think about human in the loop versus human on the loop, and put that to your business. So what does it look like? Yes, if you have human in the loop, and you should definitely, if you are trying something out and you're getting started and you're figuring out where you're going to add value, have that human in the loop. If you are going to pull the human out of the loop, you better have a human on the loop that can stop something from going wrong, right?
Yeah.
That sort of
like
thing.
the fail safe. And the notes I'm just making there is that it's about accountability and risk. And we talked about when humans should be in the loop and when they shouldn't. And there's probably like a checklist really of what would determine that. And I heard a story, it was quite a few years ago, of a DevOps change that they did where it was for a trading company. And, the trading was all made on, latest information. And I think they lost, the company was bankrupt within an hour after a deployment, And so in that case, there's a high risk associated with not having a human in the loop or having a backup plan or that. But I suppose there's, it's a risk appetite of the business, and that risk could be a monetary risk, it could be a regulatory risk, it could be a brand risk. So a combination of all of those. When would you want something just to be automated and when you wouldn't? And where that line in the sand, I suppose, would change. Using JT's lovely term he likes. It depends. The consultant reply. Yeah.
Well, I do think, at the end of the day, those risk decisions you're talking about are business decisions, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we have compliance teams, we have regulatory teams. So, yes, those compliance teams, regulatory teams are there to advise you of what are the risks. Hey, it's high risk to run software written by Sonny Rivera in his basement, while he's drinking wine or something. Maybe that's a high risk. Yes. But it's the business's call to make that call. They get to make that. And of course you need to stay in compliance, and your compliance team will help you do that. But definitely, I do think sometimes the power balance gets out of whack. Business people go, well, I'm not a technologist, so I can't make the decision. I'll let my compliance team. I don't know about you, but I want to run my business. I want to make the call and say, hey, this is going to drive value. Here's the risk I'm willing to take. And here's how I'm going to mitigate said excess risk.
That's a really good. You should run like all your initiatives like a portfolio, like your share portfolio. Okay, I'll take 4 risky projects, one dead cert, and then I'm going to get my CEO bonus at the end because I've hedged my bets.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the thing that I think the challenge is, I've never seen a company being able to have that amount of transparency that it's given with the help, honestly, from each department to actually give a true picture of everyone's project. Quite rightly so, is the most important thing to them, and unfortunately, the bigger picture isn't always there. But yeah, but back to that point of where those teams all come together and are we not going to have this separate of a data team, an AI team, and a software engineering team? And I had Carl Winterbottom on a few weeks ago talking about the evolution of the CDO role, and we were talking about, well, don't all these things just become a product role? And I knew with that title, CPO, having that. Okay, I'm doing a product, and having the ability to know, okay, I need this much AI, I need this much focus on data, and this much on my core product, and having that in your full control, and having, to your point on my favorite term, the business value aspect. You know what you want to achieve because you've been working alongside the business. You've done product fit. You've seen market research, or you got good gut feel, whichever one it is, or a combination of them all. You know that, okay, right. That's what we need to have a successful product. Whether you call it an AI product, your marketing team will probably decide.
Yeah, well, I do think, as a company, if you're looking to say, some companies have AI mandates, we need to use AI, whatever. That's probably not the best reason. I think what you could do, though, is as a company, take a look at where do I believe, given market research and, trusted advice from experts like Sonny Rivera, believe that the market is going and where I could be disrupted, right? Mm-hmm. Or what parts of my business are best suited for AI right now and what aren't, right? And so if you have a highly hands-on, high-touch business, that's probably, that component of it probably isn't going to benefit from AI right away, where you're going to get the most benefit. Not that it couldn't, but you're going to get the most benefit by maybe saying, oh, there's some of this marketing area that's already being disrupted. There's already tools. There's already great things. This is a great area for us to put a lot of, effort into. Look at different areas of your business and see which can be impacted, and then do the same for your industry. Because if you don't, you're going to look across your industry and go, oh, my industry is going to be impacted in a year. I better get busy. Or it could be impacted in 5 years. I've got a little bit more time to figure out my strategy.
Yeah.
Right?
How long you can sweat it.
Right. And this stuff is changing so fast, right? Like 2 years ago, 18 months ago, nobody was thinking like this. This data moves fast. AI is moving even faster.
And I think it's a really good approach. And reflecting on the industry and what we've done in the past is, right, big data bubble. Oh, we got to get big data. We're going to run into it. Oh, one day it's like, oh, you need to hire a CDO, and it didn't quite work out. I think this era now, if we can learn by those lessons, it's like work close to the business, find out where use that where you can add value, where they could be disrupted from other people doing things better, where you're actually a market leader at the moment, and how you make sure you keep there, and also. What is your special sauce as an organization, and what makes you different? And I think the other one you need to map that onto, okay, what's the complexity of adding AI to that? Don't go for like one that's going to be, even if it's the highest value return, but it's the most complicated, it's not really worth the one to do, because you need to build the foundations and not expect you can solve the most difficult case with AI straight away. And I think the other one is, is AI the answer to that problem? Is it a sledgehammer to crack a nut? Could you just have an if then else statement and it's going to perform just as well? Or even a case, if you like that, if you don't want to do an if then else instead. But
well, let me just add to that, Chris. As you start talking about, well, could I simplify this? What I talked about earlier, does it have to be a neural net, or could it be some statistical models that you're continually learning with a feedback loop? Yes, that is great. The other thing to look at, though, is your AI will be better. You go get the greatest algorithm you've got the greatest algorithm, take it from GitHub, you put it down, you run it, you tweaking it, and you get a 1% improvement on your predictions, right? Or a 0.5%, and you're happy. Guess what? Go fix your data. You'll see 30%. Go get better data, right? Yeah. Have the right data. The data is the AI. Yep. And so when you start looking at, I'm going to tweak this algorithm and get a little bit more out of it, I think all the data scientists out there would agree with me. If you can get better data,
you get better algorithms by default,
but better. And if you get better quality, the right data, you'll have a huge impact.
Yeah, and something that, in fact, there's some chat going on. I was actually discussing whether modeling had 2 L's or 1 L, but obviously it has 2 L's because it's modeling in the English language. And then JT was arguing about if there's a U in color. But anyway, we'll let that go. But it's again that overlooked thing during that period of the modern data stack, especially in the big data bubble of we didn't model the data. We didn't probably provide that context. And I think there's lots of initiatives that have been going for a little while that are all like, there's a few people going a bit smug mode, going, yeah, told you so. So data modeling, data cataloging, ontologies, taxonomies, semantic layers are coming back in fashion now as well. Having that metadata and context to that data is just going to provide more and more value. And I've been doing some research. In fact, George has put a comment on there. We'll read that in a minute. But we were doing some research on enrichment of data. And you can use AI for that enrichment data, but your data becomes of more value in 3 dimensions. You can enrich it wider, so you've got wider. You can make it deeper, where you've combined other industries to yours to get a bigger coverage of an area. And you've got longer, you've got the more history for that particular one, but all of them need context. But yeah, so George, we've been talking about the value context, and it's a hot topic. With Joe did a post yesterday, I think, on it, or a couple of days ago. I think it's measuring out when is AI better than a person, and when you actually get the point where we don't hands up, okay, it's better than me. I've had to do it in my own business a few times when you hire people, go, yeah, you're better than me on that. Okay, it's fine, I can live with it. But yeah, then that will help dictate where you should look to add AI to replace that person. Hopefully they'll find another job, afterwards. But yeah.
Yeah, there'll be some disruptions, no doubt, but there'll also be some new opportunities open up. I do think, actually, there's a great book. If all the people out here, I think it's called "How to Survive the AI Revolution." Right? Yeah. It's by a New York Times author. Take a look at it. How to Survive the AI Revolution. And okay. I do think the idea is look at where AI can do great things, but also look where it can't. And so there's a good question of when is AI better than a human? It's not better than you at every aspect, but guess what? AI is better than you at a lot of stuff already.
It beats me at spelling easily.
Yes, and there's only 1 L in modeling. It does know that, right? But it does need context too. And so I think you're right. All that matters. And so instead of thinking about how do you replace that person, you think about how do you augment it, and how do you add the context? Humans have the context, and they naturally see the interest. They know what's happening with that particular interaction with the person, whether it's they're on a phone with their buyer or they're on the phone with a distributor or in person with a distributor. Those are the things that really can be accelerated, enhanced with AI, but I don't think can be fully replaced. Right?
There's a good comment here from Antti, and I've got to pronounce it correctly. I know he was at Helsinki week last week, I think it was. But yeah, documentation is the new oil. I like that. I hadn't heard that before, and I think that's another forgotten thing as well, because and hopefully now, engineers they love engineering, they hate documentation. But maybe, and that's a great example of, okay, yeah, I know you hate documentation, but look, stick your code in there, get it documented, and just publish it or check it for us. It doesn't take you long now. We've reduced the friction of you actually creating high quality, human validated documentation. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and I think it's happening in this space too. That is happening, but really unchecked and without thinking about it, you open yourself up to harm. And look at, like, here's these compliance. I've seen these compliance chatbots where you can just ask my chatbot about all of my compliance. And so now when you're doing these security questionnaires with companies, literally it's 1,200 questions. And it's because they've had their chatbot generate thousands, hundreds and hundreds of questions, and your chatbot answers those questions, and then their chatbot responds, and it goes on and on and on. And where did their chatbot get all their data? Well, every lawsuit I've ever had, what was my exposure? Let me make sure that we don't have that issue on the other side, right?
Oh, yeah. Hey, yeah, I wonder how much GCPU like power that they've generated, these two chatting. They've gone off and they've just scaled themselves. Oh, more questions. Power shuts down across the whole of the US while they're battling it out. Interesting. I hadn't heard of that. So how you operate at the moment with your team? Your chief product officer. So you have within your team, you have access to your AI specialists, you have your data specialists, you have your software engineers. Do you just run as one team, or are they separate teams underneath them? How do you coordinate the activities between those different teams?
Yeah, it's interesting. We have a data science team, right, that does all sorts of data science. They're headquartered here in the US, right? And then I have data engineering and software development that's spread throughout the world. Some of that is in Asia. And then, we've got what I would say is implementation teams here in the US, right? And so we run as a data science team, and the implementation team, the development team, the data team, but we typically have a cross-functional team that's achieving a business capability, right? And so the way I organize my product is by, hey, here's a user journey, here's the capabilities that we need to have, the business capabilities, not tickets, Jira and stuff like that. The business capabilities we need to have to meet that journey. And now our engineering team can work on creating that business capability, and they'll merge it with the data science team that's doing their work to solve that business capability.
So it's really interesting. You're driving it all of business processes, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, John Cook, if he's listening, he'd be so happy as well. I caught up with him when I was back. I just got back from London recently, Sunday, Friday. I know. Last week. It was last week I saw John, and we've always discussed these things and ranted about the fact that business processes aren't used. If you know the data to use a business process, and he's taking this concept to I think out there sort of like thinking of I don't think the world's quite ready for it yet, but conceptually what he's saying, and I know he's built it, you capture all the data and your metrics are stored alongside each business process. And that aside, and that's been the missing piece of the puzzle for a long time. And up until recently, I've only ever seen business processes really well done with proper business analysts or BAs, talking to lots of stakeholders, mapping it all out. And if it was a very large transformation, so like big merger of companies, they had to do this because they were trying to build a target platform and retire or move off the legacy. But I've never seen them maintained afterwards. It's sort of like you set them up, okay, right, we're off. We'll do the transformation 4 years later. Did it work? Yeah, it worked. Yeah, and, it's a very much a one-off exercise that's done that there is no ongoing maintenance of. And the problem there is businesses, hierarchies, org structure changes, and things like AI come along, and to your point of looking to see where, we should be doing automation or should be looking to reduce that friction, as I use, we don't actually know, because we haven't got an easy place to go and say, funny enough, last night I was actually doing our internal business processes with a bit of help from Jennifer, obviously, of our level 1 process, level 2, level 3, level 4 in some cases for each of our domains in our company. So I'm mapping it. I'm eating our own dog food. I'm mapping it to our enterprise architecture toolings we've got, because we've got some automation we're doing. To a point, looking at where we can do things smarter. But yeah, so having that control, that is, I think, the way forward. I think having those business processes, hanging those things off. So what do you do? What helps you with that? What do you do? How do you do your business processes? How do you get them agreed? How you define your data? I know you're a big data modeling 1L or 2 fan. How do you map those business processes onto your data models? What's the secret sauce?
So first of all, we don't eat our own dog food. We drink our own champagne. So, so let's change the paradigm a little bit there.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, okay, yeah.
So yes, it is hard, and we're a startup, right? And so, are we as mature as some of these other organizations that are SEI level 4, right? That are self-measuring themselves and improving? No, but we know what those things are, right? And we're taking the best parts of those things as we move forward. How do we model those business processes? It's the same thing we've been doing for 30 years, right? Only we can now do it better and faster. We actually use a ton of software development, co-pilots, whether it's GitHub's Copilot or whatever else to help us. We're actually using LLMs to generate schemas for us, and it gets us pretty close, right? We can take data feeds in, we can generate schemas out. It's not perfect, gets us pretty close, and then we kind of move forward. I do think it's like super, super critical that you get the business people involved in those aspects of it, whether it is, does this make sense, at the conceptual model layer, right? Does this make sense? Is there such thing as this? And are these the activities that they do? Are these the outcomes that they have? Yes. And when we get that, at the conceptual level, maybe even at the logical level, then we can do all the stuff we want at the physical level, right? But we do a good bit of data modeling. But again, at the startup level, it's not the same thing that you do at a huge bank, right? Where you spend a year doing the data model or 6 months doing a data model. We're spending a week doing those things, and we're iterating and moving.
Yeah, right. And I think the key to having that success, and it's not only with data, it's with your algorithms, is with your whole code deployment, is having a really good framework for doing a deployment and being able to deploy regularly and often without risk or without concern of knowing that you can easily roll it back. I think if you can nail that, then you can move faster. You don't have to worry. That upfront data monitoring becomes a little bit less. Don't worry. I have to finish it because it will never get in there otherwise. No, don't worry. We've got a drop next week. We've got another drop later. Right. So it's. I think that's just been built up because of historical. Or if I don't get in now, I never get there. And I know I've seen data models that I've written myself for an event system for a very large organization, and I got to see it now in action, like about 10 years after. Well, that hasn't changed. But, it was brilliant in the first place. No, I think it was more the fact that in a large organization, change costs money and change adds risk. And if you don't have that ability to move fast without that concern of risk, then your business isn't going to go as fast. And
there's a huge push in the marketplace right now to move fast and just to capture market share with AI. And I think that has to be tempered with adding business value. And part of that value, there's a lot of this AI value that's in efficiencies. Like I can make Chris do something a little bit faster. He can make 3 more phone calls a day. Big deal, right?
Depends on calling if it's worth the value, isn't it?
efficient.
if I'm calling you Sonny, it's going to be very.
It is
valuable,
worth it.
isn't
It's
Yeah,
worth it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But efficiency is a soft type of value, right? I'm looking for hard value, like where can I save real dollars? And that's not the best. The best is where can I add top line dollars into the product? Where can I drive new value, open new markets, bring in more revenue? That's what's going to move your company forward. That's what's going to move your AI products forward when you're looking at driving real value. And I would say you don't have to solve the entire problem end to end. I think there's a lot of people out there that's thinking, oh, I'm going to build this AI and it's going to solve this problem end to end. That's so complex, right?
Yeah. Bite-sized chunks, and start with the small pieces that are easy to chew, and then after that you can move on to the chicken wings that are hard to consume. So, but it's you got to do it. You got to do it in the right order. And it's something you know I love the word as well, business value. And we talked about. Joe did a post yesterday. I think Ramona observation was pretty similar to mine as well. There's no clear alignment on what value is, and it was something I observed probably a couple of years ago. And in the background, I've been working on it. And we have a definition of what it is. It's a business value is a evidenceable positive effect on your business performance. And everyone on this post, everyone's going, oh, it's about costs and revenue. And I think the other dimension to that, it's the timeline of that. To your point, you mentioned earlier, customer acquisition, and I think the example I have in the blog post was Uber took 12 years to make a profit. Everything they did for 11 years of their existence wasn't about saving costs and it was about customer market share. They were taking lost leads and things. So the business value wasn't in them making money there because it was costing them X amount to go and take over a city and blackmail and whatever. If you've ever seen Super Pumped, it's quite interesting. So I heard I'm only going by the Netflix, so Uber, don't sue me, please. But so it's very much what's value for one person is different to another, and I think working out what's the right thing to focus and then in the right order is something that, with your architecture hat and knowing and having that product mindset, I think that's the other lens. Is having that product mentality, business savvy, and an architecture mindset. Everything else can be coded now with AI. We don't need any engineers now. No, I'm joking. We don't. Of course we do.
Well, I will say, right. Yes, as an enterprise, you're thinking about value for your organization. As a products company, you're thinking about not value for me. I'm thinking about value for my customers. My job really is to be pounding the table for our customers, right? How much value can I drive for them? So if you take that approach, then you say, Sonny, how do you identify value for your customer, right? And so I've got to get in, their house, what I would call doing a ditlock. I mean, just spend a day in the life of the customer.
Yeah.
Understanding that customer. And then also things like, I might actually go and dig into what are the KPIs they're using to drive their business? What are they reporting on their SEC filings? What are their initiatives that are out there? And looking at what do they see as driving value and align with that piece. And those things, by the way, Chris, could be everything from generating top line revenue to having more diversity within their organization. Or
exactly, reducing CO2 emission or being carbon neutral. Those things, and again, I think it's that indirect, direct, because I suppose if you've made, of course they're doing it all because of the love of the environment. There'll be some statement they've made to their board or the shareholders perceive that if they do this, they're not gonna, they're gonna invest in them. There's an indirect value, and maybe. I apologise if anyone out there is only doing it for their company to save the environment, and I kudos to you. But I think most organisations, it's imposed by governments that they need to do these things, or they've made a statement of their the values of their organization, and that's what they support, which is great. But you're doing that from a marketing perspective to build trust with your clients, and that's how you sell. So maybe indirectly in that case you're adding value, but it's a long. The further away from being able to evidence it, the harder it is to go and get agreement to do it. And I think that's where marketing is always very, very hard to get agreement to, go and do a winter data conference or go and organize, an event. And without track record or like proven sort of value you're going to get from it, it's hard to evidence why you should do it. These things. Luckily I managed.
You threw out John Cook's name. I actually did an interview with him while I was at Big Data London a couple of weeks back, right? And so we were talking about this idea of large language models and small models and big data and small data. So I wanted to give out a shout out to John. He's really a thought leader in that space.
He is. I love my chats with him. And he's taken a new thing, but DAGs to dogs is his latest one. So dogs are data object graphs, and I think it's like the new level on top of like semantic models, which I think about as well, or that knowledge layer. And I think that's where we've come from. We've come from DAGs. We put semantic and other dimensions to it. Now we're putting them as objects which have a relationship between them as well. So I always love our chats. He's a he challenges wherever he sees BS. He calls it out. I know that isn't always well received by some, but I always enjoy my chats and his views on things. So I'll probably have him back at some point on the show. Now I know well. You don't get your extra 5 minutes back. Unfortunately, I got to wrap up on the hour. But so anyone that wants to catch up with you, where they'll find you next, what's your movements?
Oh, a couple of things I didn't tell you. One, I'm actually doing. Let's see, I think it's the 12th. Next week, I'm doing an event with Data with Serena. If you know Serena, she's got a new book out, so I'll be doing a fireside chat with her.
Cool.
You can always hit me up on LinkedIn anytime. And my latest venture is I've started up the Snowflake users group in Charlotte, in my town. I ran it for a while. Just
excellent.
Taking that off. So, you need to come on down in January. I need a lead speaker to kick off my first event in January. So
let me see what I can do. I've got day-to-day techs, I think, in January at some point. But maybe if it's combined in that area, maybe I'll do a bit of a mid-country tour.
I wasn't asking you. I was asking if you could maybe get Joe to do it for me. That's just wrong. No, I would love.
You can ask him yourself.
I would love to have you, but that's what's going on in my world.
Oh, great. So I think I've got a couple of. It's Ethan's meetup. I know there's a Data Galaxy meetup as well in the next couple of weeks, and then I'm back in London for a bit. Then I haven't got a clue where I am for a bit. Well, actually, Day-to-Day Texas in January, and obviously Winter Data Conference. So I did a shout at the beginning, a shout at the end. Get your tickets now before the discounts start going. But yeah, and also next week I have Itamar Ben-Humo from Rivera. So yeah, talking about how AI will help with automate data pipelines. So we can a nice segue from today's show. So sorry, go on. I was just going to say, thanks for coming on the show. It's been great to chat as always. This time a sober one. The ones at Big Data London were all over drinks. So loved your insights into the world, and sounds like you're doing some great stuff with products, with real products with a real bit of AI.
Real products. So thanks for having me, and take care. We'll see you soon.
Take care. Thanks,
right,
everyone.
bye-bye.
Cheers. We'll end it.